Idle thumbs. Games, video 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 games, video. Video games.
It's February 14, 2014.
This is Idle Thumbs 145. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Nick Breckon.
And I'm Jake Rodkin. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Established that.
No.
We experienced a really crazy thing just now.
We should disclaim. Yeah.
Well, we should actually. We are experiencing.
We'll tell you what you are about to experience, which is we're recording out of the Campo Santo office, and we have been for a few weeks. But
the Idle Thumbs office.
The Idle Thumbs office exists inside of the Campo
Santo.
Santo office. Yeah. Idle Thumbs actually. Yeah. It's got its own room that looks exactly like the old room, which is totally creepy. But the building borders on a bar, and that bar has a band in it tonight, or a DJ, maybe, actually, more likely.
I think that's...
Because we've just been experiencing nothing but bass slamming action for the last, 20 minutes or so, so you guys might hear some low-frequency just fucking trash
jams
over this episode. Some low-frequency jams is a very nice way to describe it.
Yeah.
So that disclaimer aside, we have to talk about the most nutso thing that has probably happened in the history of Idle Thumbs. And I want Chris to talk about it because you were just leaning back in your chair.
I thought you were I thought you were like.
No, I was trying to hand it off to you.
Oh, okay. So a couple weeks ago, we received a package in the mail that was an enormous painting of Jake. I think we already talked about it that part on the podcast.
Yeah, we set it up next to us for the second half of that episode.
Right. It was amazing, and since then we've received a few hints that we should be expecting more along those lines. And today that promise was made real. We
to the goddamn max.
Yeah. Actually, I guess there was sort of phase 2 about a week ago where we received a smaller package containing 2 amazing hand-drawn, hand-penciled sketches of Nick Breckon that were very special.
Yeah.
Today, we received a larger package that included, 6 paintings? 6 portraits?
7.
7? So
no, 6, because it was 4, because I was already here.
Yes.
Jake was already here, so there were in various styles, there were portraits of me, of Nick, of Sean, and of Steve, as well as
our rich uncle and cool uncle, who are in turn Bobby Kotick and Jay Allard, rendered impeccably by Ray Chen. We should actually grab the letters. We can give these people credit.
Yeah. But the whole thing was amazing. I think it was sort of the ringleader of all this. I think was Subs from the Idle Thumbs forum, and she did a really amazing job, kind of corralling all this, and then and also writing these really beautiful letters that she wrote accompanying them. And then there were several.
The handwriting and the prose are both beautiful.
Right. Yes. There were several artists involved in this as well, who were. Ati Okunen, John Christensen, and Ray Chen, who are responsible for producing the actual artwork, which was then printed on huge canvas. So this whole thing has been amazing. There's a thread. If you go to the Idle Thumbs forums at idlethumbs.net/forums, there's a thread called the Idle Thumbs 10th Anniversary Weird Thing Committee.
We should read the titles of these pieces, because contained within this collection of artwork are Hot Cyber Scoops, which is a painting of Steve Gaynor with all sorts of weird cybernetic implants, including a headset on one ear, which only has a tone control knob on it. Yeah. And what?
Yeah, a Sci-Tech headset. Yeah, with a Boston Dynamics logo.
The most famous player, which is an old timey retro sports card of Vanneman as a basketball player with a jersey that says Dota and his number is 2. And then in the corners, there's little illustrations. One of them is him dunking. One of them is Obama dunking. And one of them is him dunking on Obama.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating. Lord Chris Ramo is Chris sitting in a throne like covered in riches. And
Spelunky riches.
Spelunky themed riches with the Spelunky Explorer's hat. That's the sort of Indiana Jones hat with the miner's headlamp. There's a bat in there.
There's a puffin scepter.
Up there.
Yeah.
Vans.
Oh, I didn't see the puffin scepter.
Video games is the one of me, which is just me looking like I helped sign the Declaration of Independence or something.
Also notable just in its sheer size.
It's like 4 times bigger than the other paintings, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
The Uber Weinhandler, which is Nick.
That one is amazing.
Nick Breckon as like a World War I era
admiral or something.
Yeah, military man, but also holding a glass of wine. It also looks like what Nick will look like when Nick is rich uncle. In fact,
yeah, it's a little creepy.
And then rich uncle and cool uncle are the names of the J.R. and Bobby Kotick ones. So anyway. That was probably the most outrageous thing that has happened in all time. And it was in celebration of Idle Thumbs being 10 years old, which it is as a website coming in like April or May, I think, because we started the site at E3 of 2004.
Have we ever actually talked about like the early rendition of Idle Thumbs?
On and off, just a little bit.
We must have when the podcast started. That's what we were coming from.
I mean, I kind of generally know, but I would actually, if you guys don't mind... Like, how did Idle Thumbs be... Like, what was the... What? Why does this exist?
It exists because back in the early 2000s, a number of us
time, also. Back in the early 2000s.
A number of us were involved with... I guess mainly 2 different adventure game websites. There was AdventureGamers.com, which I wrote for, which was owned by Merrick Braunstring. And then
Merrick Braunstring.
And then the International House of Mojo, aka mixandmojo.com, that Jake was associated with, and James Spafford, aka Spaff, was involved with, and then like Doug Tobacco was kind of involved in this as well.
He was doing web work on both sites.
Yeah, did web stuff for both. And a number of other people as well, but those are the ones who still kind of, I think, are connected to it. Like in an active way now.
We were collectively all kind of tired of just writing about adventure games and talking about adventure games.
Mm-hmm. We thought it might be just fun to start up.
Just a general thing as opposed to...
just a video game website. That also we had really hilariously stupid... Not stupid, but like we had very...
high-minded
ideals about what game journalism should be. Because that was right when Kieran Gillen published his essay on the new games journalism.
Yep.
A takeoff of the new journalism, which was a Tom Wolfe thing. I forget what the new journalism, who that was. I think it was Tom Wolfe. But we had all these ideas about like, reviews shouldn't have scores, which I still actually agree with. And just, a bunch of other opinions we had about game journalism that we figured Idle Thumbs would represent. But the reality of it is that, so we spent I would say like a year and a half at least talking about this before it actually launched.
I think we started talking about it in it was at E3 2003 that Spaff and Merrick and I were talking about it. And then E3 2004, the actual site went up the night before we were flying out to E3 and Doug was sitting at home going, and then he finally posted the site. And then
that E3 sucked for me, as I recall.
No, that was 2005.
Oh, that was when I got stuck in the hotel room.
Yeah, that was bad.
What? Doesn't matter.
It's weird. It's weird thinking about.
Maybe it does.
It's not actually an interesting.
When we put that site together, we had, like you said, a ton of pretty intense ideas about what that site should be, and some of them I still kind of like. Some of them I think are complete garbage. But also, all of that existed with us still feeling like E3 was the centerpiece of the journalistic.
I know that is the
journalistic crown of Idle. Every year E3 was when we're really going to do it and to show everyone what's going on. And E3 2005 was probably the 1 week when that site actually existed at what anyone would hope was its real amount of
we put out
at
a
least
lot of
2006 was the video
quantity.
Right?
No, that was
2005.
That was 2005?
We had plans of doing video at that show as well, but there was no fucking way it was time. But that was also the year that Chris spent at least a day in a hotel room.
Yeah,
that was bad times. Anyway,
we put out a lot of content. Although I remember even before the site launched, I think we used. Or at least I used Idle Thumbs to get into GDC 2004 because I just thought GDC was more interesting than E3.
Yeah.
But the other thing about us having a bunch of opinions about what Idle Thumbs should be and what game journalism would be is that it turned out actually most of us all had slightly different ideas of it. And so the reality of Idle Thumbs was that we, like every once in a while, we would all just start yelling at each other about like what the site identity of the site was. I mean, it's fine. Like we're all friends, obviously, but like,
it's like America. It seemed really good at first. And then
but it kind of a lot of like over time, I feel like it was sort of a demotivating force. And so I think by like 2006, the site wasn't updating very much anymore.
Yeah, and by 2007, it was effectively gone. I think your article, Nick, was one of the last.
Yeah, I just signaled the death knell of old Idle Thumbs, pretty much.
Yeah. So then in 2008, Jake and I were just talking about doing a podcast, and actually, we were talking about doing a podcast before we even had the notion that it would be connected to Idle Thumbs. And we were like, is it weird if we use Idle Thumbs?
It's because everyone,
I didn't know that.
Everyone collectively who had written for the site all kind of had little pieces of personal ownership over the name.
Yeah.
Right.
And like every now and then someone, especially the UK guys who kept more active on the site, would publish an article every now and then. And we were like, is it going to be weird? So I think we...
Yeah, those guys kind of did minor resurrections a couple times. And in fact, Spaff and Maverick did their own this podcast that lasted like 3 episodes or something.
The Thumbcast, yeah.
Maybe more.
Was Steve ever on Idle Thumbs? I forget.
Yes.
Yeah, he was, right? Yeah.
Steve was on it after you left.
Oh, really?
No.
After you left for Bethesda.
Steve was
on the website.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the website.
You mean? Yeah.
Steve was published on the
We
website.
met Steve because he sent Idle Thumbs an email
That's what I thought.
in 2005 saying,
Right.
I like your website. Can I write for you
Yeah,
guys?
we met
Okay.
Steve through that. We
Okay.
actually met Duncan Fife through that as well.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
He did,
We met Nick
Interesting.
Breckon through that.
we met
Yeah. This is weird, actually. I knew that, obviously, but I didn't.
My entire professional career, basically all.
Chris and I
hinges on
interviewed
Idle
Ron
Thumbs.
Gilbert in a humongous
in
interview for that
2004.
site. That was like,
Yeah,
that was
I remember
the first
reading
sort
that
of real
interview.
piece of content that we put on that site.
Yeah.
Like that at least you and I did, other than just really bad bullshit news.
That multi-page interview with those portraits. Yeah. Actually.
But yeah, we talked about calling the podcast a million things, and then Chris, you were like, well, you should obviously just call it Idle Thumbs, which made me completely freak out because I didn't want to step on anyone's toes. And then we asked everyone, and they said, we don't actually care. Just do something with the site. So we shut down the site and then put a cool teaser up. Like, I mean, we closed the homepage that had been stagnant for a year. Put up a really cool teaser that no one saw other than like the 2 guys on the Idle Thumbs forums.
Right.
Well, but you say that, but the reality is the cool thing about maintaining continuity from at least with the domain and the forums is that we actually have an amazing forum community that has been. We've mentioned this a few times in the last couple of weeks, but our forum community is actually coming up on
it's actually
a decade old.
the 10th year anniversary of our forum community.
That's really what it is.
Who
Yeah.
bought all these paintings for us, which they made, obviously.
Yeah,
So happy anniversary, you guys. Happy.
Dishonored anniversary.
Happy dishonored anniversary.
podcast.
Because Idle Thumbs as an entity has had the most fragmented existence.
Yeah. I was thinking about the 10th anniversary of the forum community recently, and it made me like remember a choice that we made about that, which is that we don't currently display join date next to your name. You can find it if you go into someone's profile, but like join date is not listed next to people's posts as it is on a lot of forums, which I really like because I feel like the forum has a lot of sort of history and heritage and like names who everybody there knows because they've been there for so long, but it doesn't have that.
It's not listed as a badge. It's
yeah,
just sort of-
exactly. It's not like sort of a title that is constantly emblazoned next to your post.
It's weird when you set up a new forum, thinking about which of the just out of the box guaranteed things you show and don't show, and what limits you put on the contents of avatars and signatures, and like all of that
it makes
stuff.
Such a huge difference.
It changes the discourse so much.
Forum,
Like, do you display people's post counts? Do you display their join date? Do you display their administrator class? Like all of that stuff is. I mean, I know forums aren't the cool thing at this point by any means, but it just the nuances of just that of sort of what you display in your post
but
template
also
are
like
crazy.
Forums aren't the cool thing right now, but also like this crazy shit that happened would not have probably come out of
anything but a weird forum.
Community.
Yep, it's the best.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Idle Thumbs 10th anniversary.
Right.
Anyway, Jake and I have been hanging out talking about stuff together for 10 years now, so just FYI, in case you didn't notice that was true.
It's good that we just fractured your brains.
Yeah, that was really disorienting.
Was it?
All right.
So sorry for that big digression. Video games.
The band stopped playing in time for this podcast too. Which
that's true.
hopefully me
Wow.
saying that
They were
means-
just really pumped up for like
Yeah.
the recap of 10 years of history of Idle Thumbs.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of petered out as just video game discussion now.
Yeah.
So fuck that.
We opened for Idle Thumbs. 145.
Oh yeah. Also, it's nice that I think actually Episode 150 is coming up, obviously, in 5 weeks, which lands right at GDC, which is great.
Yeah, it is.
So it's
an auspicious 10th year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And of course, next year is episode 200, assuming we're still doing this in a year.
And the year of the PS3.
Yes. The year of the PS3, or what is it? Year of the PS3.info, a domain registered by an Idle Thumbs reader years ago.
I can't remember if it's the year or just year.
Yeah. One of those still exists, and it's still counting down to next year when you can finally, when the PlayStation 3's full potential is unlocked.
Yeah, when developers fully understand the cell processor.
Yeah.
So Jake,
you can play like Journey 2 next year.
You and I played the same 2 iPhone games, I think, this week. Actually, you played 3.
Let's open it up with what the readers crave the most. Let's talk about this.
No, we don't have to, right? Is there anything that anyone's actually fucking played for real? Oh, actually, sorry. I hate to say this.
Nick also has played some stuff because Nick.
Wow.
Oh.
It's like.
You looked like you're painting for a second, so I thought you had something stately and important to say.
Nope. Well, I'm just going to. I don't think we mentioned this because I don't think it existed last week, as I recall. But on the topic of community members who've made us amazing things based on ourselves, there's now a Spelunky sprite based on that looks like me.
That also came out of that same thread.
Made by Blendo. Oh, did it really?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that. That thread is like 33 pages long, so I haven't read through it.
That was the bonus gift in that thread.
Yes. I guess, was that the same guy who... That was the same guy, right, who made Jake's...
Yes.
Who made your portrait.
Yep. Yeah.
He also made a really great Spelunky sprite sheet that like looks like me but rendered in the Spelunky style. So I'm using that on my daily streams now.
He did one of me, Nick, Jay, and Bobby.
Yeah.
The guys.
You know, cool rich uncles. Anyway, he did that Spelunky sprite that's like... It really just looks like it's from Spelunky.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's really good. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Wait, so what did you play, Nick, this week?
Flappy Bird.
Oh.
Did we only play Flappy Bird this week? In honor of our 10th anniversary of existing?
We didn't only play Flappy Bird.
We also played threes.
Flappy Bird, Flappy Fluke.
Different bird variant.
Oh, we also played a mechanical bird or whatever it's called.
Renegade Bird.
Renegade Bird? Maverick Bird.
Maverick Bird. Sorry.
Sorry, what is it? Mechanical
Cool
Bird,
Uncle
Renegade?
Maverick Bird. Game Cool Maverick. Flap.
Yeah.
Nick Breckon's back, everyone. In case you didn't
flap,
that.
Cool flap. Bird.
But yeah, I did play Flappy Bird.
Bird noise.
This whole Flappy Bird thing is actually fairly fascinating to me. I feel like
It actually is.
It's kind of...
What's weird is I feel like everybody's put a little thought into it, which is a little strange.
I know.
It feels like I can't even say what I was going to say. I was talking to somebody the other day who was just like, oh man, I just decided to spend like an hour of my day on Sunday trying to decipher what actually, like, just internet sleuth the hell out of this story and got nowhere. But like, I think everybody pretty much did that.
But I don't even know if that's possible because I think, okay, so for background, if you somehow don't know what this is, because I actually didn't until 3 days ago, Flappy Bird is an iPhone game made by an individual guy in Vietnam who's just made a few like tiny iPhone games, none of which have hit big, except for Suddenly Flappy Bird, in which it scrolls endlessly to the right, and it's a one-button game in which as you tap the screen, you get a little bit of vertical height on this little bird that flaps around, and then he starts falling to the ground again until you give another tap, and you have to navigate through these like thin gaps in vertical pipes that look like pipes from Mario.
It's similar to something like Cannibal. It's an endless runner.
Yeah, it's an endless runner, but much harder. Like you have to be much more.
It's an endless runner, but you're constantly just having to juggle the height of the guy.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because you're not running along the ground.
Yep.
And this game, like it's free, but it's ad supported, and the ads are not very intrusive. It's probably the lowest impact.
Yeah, the ads just show up at the top of the screen. Then if you tap to make the bird jump, which you do every half second, they go away, and that's it.
Yep.
And this game was just stuck at number 1 on the top free games on the App Store, and this guy was apparently bringing in $50,000 a day through ad revenue. But he also, like, as his game became just impossibly successful, he started just receiving unbelievable torrents of abuse from people
from all sides.
From like all sides, exactly.
Fuck you for this game. Fuck you for this game being an iOS piece of shit garbage game that's not real. Fuck you for stealing art from Mario Brothers. Was Kotaku like good times? Like,
it's incredible. And
fuck you for the game being too hard. Fuck you for the patch making the game slightly easier.
Right? Yeah, it's amazing. And so the guy he has like, I remember when I first saw this guy's Twitter account, he had like 200 followers. And then I looked back 3 hours later, and he had like 6,000, and I'm sure it's
because that's because he posted the tweet.
Oh my God, does he really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Because that was the day when he posted the tweet was when I looked, but that was like within minutes of him posting it, he jumped up thousands. So he posted a tweet on Saturday, I believe, that said something like
10th anniversary sirens. Anyway,
yeah, it's probably actually worth finding. But this guy,
I retweeted them.
Yeah, this guy was completely unable to deal, understandably, with like this just ridiculous amount of abuse.
There's like exponentially increasing heap of mania.
Yeah, and so he just decided to take the game down. So first, God, this was my favorite tweet. This was like the one that was amazing to me. Yeah. His name is Dong Wen, and I think is how it's pronounced. And he says, "I can call Flappy Bird is a success of mine, period. But it also ruins my simple life, period. So now I hate it, period." Like that is like an astonishing tweet. And it was retweeted 8,417 times. Yeah. And then his next one, this is unbelievable. "I am sorry, Flappy Bird users. 22 hours from now, I will take Flappy Bird down. I cannot take this anymore." 145,000 retweets. Like, and he just got infinitely more abuse once that started happening. Everything about this is fascinating to me. Every angle of this.
Yeah.
And I
there
think,
are a lot of angles, too, because you can definitely take a cynical route with this, but
I don't think that would hold up under scrutiny at all. What is the cynical route?
I think
the cynical angle.
The cynical route is that if he actually was facing illegal action, or he had the hint that he was going to, or he used a bot to whatever. If he saw something coming down the line, the smart thing to do would be to do what he did, which is take it off, still earn the ad revenue every day from all the installs that he's already got, and get away from the legal trouble.
But I think that the people who are diving deep into the conspiracy that no one is seeing are the people who are mad because he's making a game that isn't a game, that uses art from Mario, that is hoodwinking people into playing it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people who are saying, like, you're juking reviews. You're like, the other side of that, though, is that people have been, like, God, I can't remember the article that I read. We've all been...
Yeah.
Flappy Bird took over my mind for 2 days. But I read an article from that involved research from someone who scraped the entire App Store app review, like just every review,
I saw that
any
too.
metric they could find, because they were looking for signs of repeatability, signs of like juke in the stats, and they couldn't find any.
Oh, really? I saw one that had.
Oh, was it on 4chan?
No.
Was it linked to our press relations to Gone Home reviewers? The one that I read showed an exponential curve in frequency of reviews and ratings that matched up basically exactly with its purchase curve. And it was just like, I think this game just caught.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's true. I know, like...
I would be amazed if it were anything other than that, personally. I think this is an Occam's razor situation.
It's a game that, like, every kid in my girlfriend's high school English classes just fucking, for the last 3 days, talked, like... last week, it hit critical mass amongst a bunch of high school kids who just were not paying attention to school because they were playing Flappy Bird.
Yeah.
And I guess that's... If it's actually the result of juking App Store stats, this has to be the first time that it has succeeded to such a high level for such a stupid game. That's the thing
I think
about
that
it.
I mean, I don't know. That to me seems possible. The stupid game aspect of that,
But it's not. Okay, here's the thing about that.
Because I know everybody does this to some degree, right? I mean, like, everybody tries to do this.
Yeah, but he
can't be the only guy who's trying this, right?
Who's trying what?
Why did he take it down?
I don't think that there's any... We're never going to reach any agreement on this.
No, I mean, nobody actually knows. This isn't really an argument because we have no idea. But I do think it's possible. I don't know what happened, but I do think it is.
I feel like
it's plausible.
Absent of any, like,
my initial
evidence.
take on it was the same as yours, which is that, like, oh my god, this guy got inundated by garbage, and just I believed him, but I read some stuff that kind of made me think, well. If
that, like, the melting point of steel is, you should definitely look into it, and
What is that?
Read some stuff. I'm just saying, 9/11. Think about it. That's all I'm saying. Lose change.
Whoa!
I've read some things.
Because an App Store developer
really
you're equating that to like a 9/11 truther? Is that what's going on here? A Flappy Bird?
I don't think it's out of bounds to believe that a developer would try to, like...
Why did that second tower fall? Flappy Bird, GIF. Like,
right. Yeah. Just... Whatever. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. You can link me the things you read.
The thing about Flappy Bird, though,
it's been out for 8 months,
right? But okay,
or whatever, however long it's been out.
After all of the I would have never played.
That's not evidence for or against.
I would have never played Flappy Bird except for the fact that it was the guy posted a tweet saying I'm taking Flappy Bird off the thing, and I'm really glad that I
downloaded it as well.
Everybody did that.
I'm really glad that I played it because the thing about Flappy Bird is I feel like.
Sorry, the band is back.
I'm so glad the band is back for our Flappy Bird discussion. Hopefully, actually, what that is someone playing Flappy Bird with a drum kit, like with an electronic drum machine.
That backing is that musical back accompaniment is representative of the general tenor of discussions surrounding Flappy Bird. It's just a fucking crazy metal band going ape shit in the background.
The thing about Flappy Bird is, I think it might. The reason that I think it might be a fluke, but that it is legitimate in its success, is because I look at things that one person has made that blew up on the App Store, and it is things like Cannibalt, Tiny Wings, and God, there's a fucking third one in that. I mean, even things like Super Hexagon, which is super deliberate.
Yeah.
But
they have that same quality
Cannibalt
to them.
and Tiny Wings especially.
Or one or two buttons in some cases.
Flappy Bird feels like the reason that Cannibalt and Tiny Wings are addictive crunched down into something that has the intensity and instant repeatability of Super Hexagon.
I think it's entirely believable that it was naturally... It was interesting to me that two of the biggest defenders of Flappy Bird as a thing that is actually really hard to fucking rip off in 100% of the way is Terry Cavanaugh, the guy who made Super Hexagon, and Bennett Foddy, the guy who made Co-op and Super I actually downloaded
Riders.
After I saw Bennett's tweet.
Yeah, because Bennett Foddy tweeted just saying, everyone's trying to rip off Flappy Birds. Good fucking luck. Look at this stupid web game. People are saying it's the same game. It's not. It's actually, you've got it tuned all wrong. It's garbage.
Yep.
And it's cool and interesting to see guys like that whose reputations are built on games that are entirely in fine-tuned feel saying, maybe there's more than bullshit to this. Maybe people aren't just playing it because the pipes look like Mario.
Yeah, I'm less cynical about.
I
mean, whatever. Like, I think there could be a number of reasons why he took it down. I guess is what I'm saying. But I don't necessarily, whatever. Like in terms of statute game, I have no fucking clue. But I do think, there could be various reasons why he's taken that down, including that. He is the point that he actually still is earning ad revenue from that game was interesting to me. I had not.
I thought I saw
that.
Someone say that he took down the
IAD account or something, or what?
But I guess
they should still be getting served.
The game, But the thing what was I just going to say a second ago? Oh, right. Someone posted just like a screenshot of a grid of like a dozen by dozen square or whatever of just tweets obtained by searching for that guy's username and the word kill or murder, and it's basically just the most like horrifying thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
what does that mean?
People can say they want to murder me, and if I get $50,000 a day, I'm fine. Like I just
you say that. Me? I don't.
Yeah. What is your level of self-awareness, Nick? You would not be on this world anymore.
What
if you were one making $50,000 a day, and two, the general game playing public was asking for your body?
$50,000 a day, Jake.
That would make you way more strung out.
I would be fine with it for $50,000.
You say that, but I live with you.
I would lose my mind. I think I thought about this, and I think that he said he's not going to sell the game. Oh, the last interview that he did before we recorded this podcast was him saying, "I saw that the game was actually. I made a thing that was just addictive to people and maybe isn't actually fun," which I thought was interesting. And to your credit, Nick, the fact that every time he makes a statement, it's slightly incongruous, except for like the four bundled together when he's putting the game when he was putting the game to bed, is the one thing that's made me be like, what is this? But then also, he's just a kid, basically. He's a guy in his early mid-20s who's never done anything like this before.
Yeah.
Like, he's not accustomed to anyone replying him ever, let alone this many people all at the same time.
It's bullshit to speculate to what his inner thought process is, but it's an interesting line that you can trace by looking at all the stuff that he said.
To be a public-facing employee. I don't think you understand how bizarre this would be for someone who...
I understand how bizarre and frustrating it is, but you also... I don't know. It's fine.
I guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
Until Flappy Bird 2... The true story of Flappy Bird is released by him. that it has just huge, lavishly expensive narrative cutscenes about the life of Flappy Bird as an analogy for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I thought was interesting about this is how much it seemed to be, like, the situations seemed to be just a blank slate for people to enact their own, like, prejudices about stuff on, including casual games generally, or iOS games, or like people who make money through free-to-play games, or or the other, like people who support the guy, or like whatever, like
or outsider art, or people who are not like in like games industry luminaries. Like I think part of the reason that everyone shat on his fucking face is because he's just a random kid in Vietnam who made a game that was popular that happened to use art from Mario.
Agree. Yeah,
that part is the part that actually made me download Flappy Bird. It was people bitching that the art was Mario sprite influenced pipe art, and then people bitching that he changed the art to less good art to get out of that.
Yeah.
No one complained when Braid had Mario pipes in it. No one complained when that retro top-down Ninja Turtles looking arcade mashup had warp pipes in it. Everyone shat their fucking pants when a guy from Vietnam made a free-to-play iPhone game. Yeah. Not even free-to-play, fucking free.
Yeah, free, and actually free. Yeah, no, I agree.
That made me gross. Really, really mad. Like, that... People be like, like, are you kidding me? Anyway, whatever.
Yep.
Christ.
There's a more insidious version of that that's happening all the time via like AAA iPhone developers. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. This is the least insidious version of it. This is the one version where it's like, hey, a guy just like made a thing on a phone and he actually hit it big.
Yeah.
Every other at this point, almost every other successful iPhone game, with relatively few exceptions, is like calculated to a degree that would be impossible for someone who doesn't work for a large corporation to achieve.
Yeah.
Speaking of other iPhone games that seem to be doing pretty well, Threes is really good.
Now that's a game.
It's actually representative.
That's made by good wholesome stock.
This was it Zach Gage who made this, or was that someone else?
I don't remember who made Threes.
I can't remember who made this.
It's the iOS cast this week. It's good.
Well, I was on the Double Fine ski trip this past weekend, and the only games I played were iPhone games. Which is funny because I never play iPhone games. Sorry, it's not Zach Gage. He's just in the special thanks, Zach Gage and Adam Salzman. This game was made by Asher Vollmer, Greg Woolwind, and Jimmy Henson. But I never, ever play iPhone games. And then Greg Rice from Double Fine recommended Threes to me. And then that same day, the Flappy Bird shit just exploded, so I downloaded it.
Flappy Bird shit.
Flappy Bird shit went all over my face, and it was gross. But the Threes is a game that is kind of reminiscent of a Match 3, except you're just combining tiles on a 5x5 or something grid.
It might be 4x4.
Might be 4x4. You're essentially combining like numbers. It's a little more nuanced than that, but it's 4x4. You're right. But you're sliding tiles around and matching numbers together, and the numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger as you keep combining them, and you're shooting for a high score. And the thing that I think is notable about it, one, it's really just slick and fun, I think, and well designed. But it's also like representative of a style of game that I feel like has really only existed in any significant degree in the last couple of years, which is the kind of iOS, the version, the equivalent of nicely designed Mac or iOS software but applied to games. Like, that's not a thing I ever remember seeing on the actual Macintosh computer.
Or it's very like sedate and feels like it's UI, but it's a game.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of just flat colors, really crisp design, clean lines.
Like letterpress was the big example.
Yeah, letterpress, exactly. Like, this is a style. I feel like it is. It's obviously not game design. It's mainly visual design and UI design, but I feel like it goes part and parcel with a certain kind of game design, which is kind of Sudoku-like, games that are like word games, number games that are aimed at a sort of broad audience. It's
an intense modern evolution of like the slider puzzle that you could open up in the Apple menu of a Mac in 1984. Yeah. Like just a weird it's weird.
Right. But they share a very specific kind of modern stripped down UI sensibility. Yep. I don't necessarily have anything interesting to say about it. It feels like a new kind of visual design, at least with respect to games. Like it's that kind of visual design is like very much in vogue today already outside of games, but it feels like a new thing within game design.
Yep.
To me.
Oh man, I started playing Jazzpunk.
Oh, how is that? I haven't played that yet.
I don't know.
I read a review of it that was I honestly saw the trailer for it. I had no idea what that game was really. I was looking forward to it.
Yeah,
off of the trailer. But then I read the review and I was like, "What is this game?"
Can I finish the?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you were actually
unless
done.
It's going to tie into that.
No, it's not.
Oh, sorry. The only one thing I want to say is that this game is freaking me out, like on a personal level.
Why? Okay.
Because I can't fucking stop playing it.
Now we're okay. When I saw Threes, I was like, okay, this seems like the sort of game that Chris will not play because he doesn't allow himself to play these anymore.
Yeah, because it would ruin me.
But if you were to play it, it would melt your life.
Yeah, and if I didn't go on that goddamn ski trip, I wouldn't even have known about it, probably. Well, I mean, I probably would have eventually known about it because everyone's tweeting about it now. But I probably wouldn't have downloaded it unless there was a human being sitting next to me who said, download this game, which is what happened, so I did. And I can't stop playing it. In fact, I deliberately didn't delete it until we recorded this podcast because I wanted to be able to run right up against the podcast, so I would still be feeling this distressed about it. But as soon as we're done with this podcast, I'm deleting this fucking app off my phone because I can't. I can't.
10,000 people will put the app on the phone.
I know. Well, you should.
Cut to 1 month ago.
Capable of
went on the ski trip and played this game called Flappy Bird.
Well, Flappy Bird, I did play a bunch, and I got up to like a score of 55 or something. But
God, how did you get 55?
And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and
my
it was really fun,
best was 22. Do you still have Flappy Bird?
I do, but that one's not like. It's not destroying me, though. Threes is destroying me. Flappy Bird, like, I even played it at all today, right?
Flappy Bird destroyed itself. We all destroyed Flappy Bird.
Yeah, it's true. But Threes, I just can't stop playing it. It's terrible. And it's weird because when I play it, obviously, in the middle of playing it, I'm enjoying it or I wouldn't be playing it. But then every time I have a moment of self-awareness, I feel disgusting. I'm like, ugh, I just spent like another 20 minutes playing, however many, I don't know, 10 more rounds of Threes. Like, and it feels gross to me in a way that
then you do
a lot of kinds of games don't.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that disgust, you look down like, I'm playing it again.
I keep doing it. I've played it probably doesn't count how many games you've played.
You can scroll through the list, though, I think. It has all your scores.
I'm not going to count every single one of them. I mean, that'd be crazy.
That'd be crazy. 380.
My high score is not even that fucking high. My high score is 9,240, but I've seen people on Twitter with high scores way higher than
50,
that.
60,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not even that I'm amazing at it. I just can't stop playing it. Oh, these people also made Puzzle Juice, which also, I didn't really play it, but it also is of this type. Yeah, it's just killing me. And this is one of the reasons I don't play iPhone games is because the majority of iPhone games that people recommend I don't enjoy, but the ones I do enjoy, which also include things like Drop 7, Spell Tower, which is also of this ilk.
You played Words with Friends for a long time.
I did play a lot of Words with Friends. When I do get into them, I can't, and it's always of this type. It's always of this type of game. I can't stop playing them. It's and I hate it. I hate it. I feel so gross. Because it's like Spelunky is a game that I don't really want to stop playing, but I'll load up the daily challenge. I'll do it. Usually 20 to 30 minutes later, I'm done. And I'm like, great. And I don't feel gross. I'm just like, that was fun. I maybe saw a new thing. Like, I played around. Like, I did badly or I did well. Like, whatever. Great. All right. Anyway, continue on my day.
Yeah.
With Threes, I'm just like, I just want to keep playing Threes, and I don't want to also. It's the worst.
When I was playing Threes...
Also, it's a good game, so I'm sorry if you made it and it sounds like I don't like it, because I obviously do too much.
It's actually... Threes and Flappy Bird are the two games, for some goddamn reason, that I was also playing this week after not playing iPhone games for a month. But playing both of them... This is a reference that will probably actually be lost on at least you, Chris, but probably both of you. I could not think of anything other than the episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where one guy comes back from some planet and has a little like headband that has a game where all you have to do is think as much as you possibly can about a little like disc floating into a little like open like horn-shaped tornado thing, and then it disappears in it, and it's the most satisfying feeling in the entire world. And by the end of the episode, everyone is just doing nothing but staring off into space, making a disc go into a horn until someone finally wrenches their like glasses off and frees everyone. Watching my life disappear in equal parts into fucking Flappy Bird and Threes, it was that hasn't hit me for a couple of years, and it was weird that just like two very different versions of that crushed my goddamn face over the weekend.
Man, also, sorry, we never even mentioned... We did mention Terry Kavanagh, right? Because you brought him up as a defender of the game. But you didn't mention the tribute game he made, which was...
Athletic Bird?
Maverick Bird?
Maverick Bird.
Maverick Bird, which you can find by just searching for Maverick Bird on the internet. It's at terrykavanagh.com/Maverick Bird, I think.
There's also the Flappy Jam going on, which is a game jam flavored around many of the Flappy Bird-esque controversies. But it's basically, I think, we feel bad for this guy, and also maybe there's something interesting in Flappy Bird. Everyone make games that are preferably endless somethings that use artwork that is inspired by but not directly ripped off from classic games, and those were the limitations. And there's a website for Flappy Jam.
Is that where Maverick Bird came out of?
I don't know. Maverick Bird is called really Maverick Bird, a Flappy Bird fan game.
I like that. Yeah. Maverick Bird is basically a more kind of visually brash and
it's also faster paced and harder than Flappy Bird, I think.
Yeah, right. It is. It's more varied. It's more random and varied than Flappy Bird is, and like more extreme, just across every dimension, basically. And it's good. I mean, if you have played Flappy Bird, you should play Maverick Bird just to see what he did with it. It's good. It reminds me of that game. It kind of reminds me of a less insane version of that game, Fly Wrench. Yep. That I mentioned a couple weeks ago for some other reason.
Fly Wrench.
I love Fly Wrench.
God, actually, fuck it, whatever. If you are a person who like Flappy Bird guiltily or genuinely, and play Maverick Bird and play fucking Fly Wrench. It's by the guy who made Nidhogg. It's good.
Mark Essen. Fly Wrench is intense. That game is crazy. Yeah. It's really good, though. You should look it up. I'm sorry. So you were going to talk about Jazzpunk.
I was. You saw the trailer, you guys, for it, I think. I saw the trailer, and it made me not want to play the game at all, because I saw the trailer and said to myself, I guess kind of like a douche, this looks like a game by someone who played Blendo Games and then decided, I'm going to make my own Blendo game, but like I didn't really like the look of the character design. I thought it jarred really, really heavily against the world art, and like it felt like a clash of a ton of different aesthetics that felt like... I'm saying this under the umbrella of I was a
describe like what the game is at all? Or?
Well, yeah, I guess I can do that. Well, I didn't know what it was when I saw the trailer. Like it had sort of old, sort of hyper 60s jazz with sort of like Latin influences, similar to Blendo stuff, or I mean like something like Cowboy Bebop or Archer or the Venture Brothers. And the trailer was just weird, esoteric, loud, mid-century looking art, just like really abrasive patterns and fonts with non sequitur imagery and just like horns going, and a guy saying weird stuff, kind of like a Thunderbirds trailer, I think is what what it was supposed to look like. With like the logo just kept zooming into itself over and over again, and I was like, okay, this looks like something from someone who played Gravity Bone and 30 Flights of Loving. And playing the game, it admittedly is very much that. Like, it's got loud, crazy fonts, weird, like, lo-fi audio narrators talking to you about stuff. It's a first-person game set in a really, really stylized world made out of pretty lo-fi but very loud art with lots of weird flats in it and stuff. But it also... I wish that it was a little bit different aesthetically on its face from Blendo Games, because the further into it that you get, the more that you can tell that it's very, very clearly made by people who are not Brendan Chung and who have a different sensibility from him, other than the fact that they obviously respond to some of that same stuff. I mean, I don't know whether or not I can actually recommend this game to people wholeheartedly. Like, I'm enjoying it, but I'm not like... I mean, I honestly had some reservations even about recommending the Stanley Parable wholesale to people, just because that game is so, like... Oh, man, I almost got into an is it a game conversation, which is gross, but it's like...
I mean, I think... Well, so the review I read of Jazzpunk took a turn where I didn't expect, which is that it basically talked about how it's one of those games that is referencing games left and right and just is about a game, or is about being a game.
I didn't get that. Maybe I didn't get far enough into it that stuff became overt. I mean, like it feels very much like the way Gravity Bone is a game that very passively but secretly in your face is a game about the structure of games. Like Gravity Bone. Yeah. You get those first two weapons, and then you get the next one, and it deliberately skips 3 slots in the UI. But that turns out to be completely meaningless. Like you complete your first mission in Gravity Bone, and then by the time you get to where anything else should be happening in the game, is just lost the plot that's gone insane.
Yeah. But it doesn't emotionally, it doesn't feel like it's like a game parody at all.
Jazzpunk feels to me more in the spirit of the Stanley Parable, but it's less on its face about it even than the Stanley Parable is. Like, Jazzpunk to me didn't straight up say, in a game, this happens. Like, it's still, like, you go through these very weird atmospheric, like, kind of lo-fi, noir-y stuff, like a Blendo game, but then you go and talk to your boss who gives you a mission, which feels very much like Gravity Bone. But the way that you get into the mission, like it's written up on a blackboard and he sort of gestures towards it in a little like stylized dotted line, points from his eyes to the board, so you look at it. And then he just gives you some pills that are, I think, just the medication on the pill is missionol or something like that. And then you press E to use and it just goes gulp and the scene fades out. And then you're just in a crazy place midway through a very Gravity Bone-esque heist. And that's where it's like, it's got a lot of that same stuff where you're sort of completing the objectives that the game strings out to you one at a time in the stuff that I've done, except very much like the Stanley Parable, you can deviate from it and do other just weird stuff all over the place. But the game doesn't get all over you for breaking the rules or anything. It feels more like this game is trying to do some of that stuff, but entirely just revel in it and be your fun buddy who's with you along for all the weird stuff that you're doing. Like, I was in the middle of this thing where I was trailing, I think it's the second mission, I was trailing like a cowboy through a kind of Blade Runner-esque, like sci-fi, like pan-Asian neighborhood where he was going to a sushi restaurant and I had to poison him or extract something from him or something. And then a bunch of agents showed up and started like chasing me out. But then the organ that I pulled from his body I was holding it because it was the thing that I was supposed to be delivering to the drop. And I didn't know how to get past these guys until I clicked the mouse, and then I just swung it at them, like, and it knocked one of them over and just played the sound of a bowling pin dropping. And then I was like, what? And then the game just basically, obviously I did what I was supposed to do, which was just run through the entire level swinging this like internal organ, making just bowling pin strike noises everywhere. And then eventually... I'm sorry that I feel like I'm spoiling a little bit of this game, but it's very early on. Like, I saw a series of doors and I just started using them, and then I ended up, one of them just put me into a china shop, and there were 2 flies buzzing around, and a weird, like, all-horn arrangement of Flight of the Bumblebees was playing, and then all that I was doing was trying to kill those 2 flies, but really, obviously, the whole point of this was just to be an insane montage where I destroy every single thing in this room to kill 2 flies.
Yeah.
Then I walked out of the room after killing the flies. I think I could have left whenever I wanted. And then I realized that I had the fly swatter and the guy's internal organ. And when I swatted anyone with the fly swatter, their eyes turned into flies and they started making a fly noise and then flew away. Or, which would work on anyone other than the guys who were chasing me, which I still had to knock over with the organ, the internal organ that turned them into bowling pins. And then the last guy, I knocked a huge ton of these guys out of the way, and they're all wearing like mirrored aviator shades. And then the final guy was just a bowling pin wearing mirrored aviator shades, and I knocked him out of the way, and then just jumped into the subway, and the mission was over. And I was like, "What the fuck was that?" That's not at all what Brendan Chugg would make, and I don't think that it was. It was just ridiculous for the sake of being ridiculous, but then it also has. It's a weird fucking game because it has no problem just deciding to be really cool and like slick and feel very much like that sort of understated Brendan-y, like Blendo Games feeling thing, and then it'll just go and just lose its mind. And I don't know if it's something that you guys would actually like.
Check it out.
But yeah, at one point I just disappeared inside a computer for no reason, and like I don't know, it's weird. It's hard to describe. Also, obviously, I think I said this before, but it's a first-person game.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten far enough in to understand if there's a through line or a point. If there is, I hope that it doesn't try to make it too hard. Like, I hope that it doesn't like go for the hard sell on some sort of message, because that's where I feel like this thing has the potential to fall off a cliff. Because as of right now, it's just like I like it because it feels aesthetically very different from this, but very much like you're inside of an episode of Mr. Show or Monty Python's Flying Circus or something, where it's just like, okay, whatever, we're all collectively bored now. It's time for the game to just do something completely unrelated to this, and it doesn't try any of what like the Stanley Parable does, where it's trying to all put this into like the weird intermesh of paranoia and sort of like the overall theme of repeatability and all this other stuff. Like in Jazzpunk just feels like they're kind of trying to predict a thing that would be enjoyable and surprising to happen next, and then just put you into that and go.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's good or bad, or like I don't know exactly like where the like hearty value lies in that, but it is like it's surprising to play.
What I read about it was it seemed like it was attempting to be a like comedy simulator of some kind, or like it's it's trying to be something that you would be like taking part in a joke, rather than a game sort of presenting a joke.
I guess that's a pretty fair assessment. I mean, like it feeling like you being inside of the game are like the game is facilitating weird, funny interactions with you, and it does feel collaborative, but I mean, it still feels like it feels similar to me to I think the critical things you can say about something like the Stanley Parable or 30 Flights of Loving, which is just I'm inside of a space that is constructed the same way as any other first-person space, but what I'm actually just doing is pressing a button, and then the game emits something funny at me, and I'm not like I'm just in like the child like squeaky toy car horn toy, that's and it's the content in this one is just the most bonkers out of all of them that I've played, but it still is of that style very much, where it's just the back and forth from a mechanic standpoint is not actually present. It's more sort of just the experience of all these things washing over you just by virtue of you being a virtual participant in them, not because of like systemic feedback. I don't know.
I think I read the Kill Screen review, and they sort of surmised the same thing, which was that it is just sort of a linear series of jokes, and then I think they actually compared it to something like Octodad, where you're actually participating in something that is systemic and makes it feel like you're creating a hilarious thing. But
I feel like the games I've played whose sort of physical comedy has resonated with me the most are ones whose world does not acknowledge that in the slightest, and I would even put Far Cry 2 in that category. Hilarious things happen in Far Cry 2, but the game is not fundamentally hilarious. And generally speaking, or like GTA is often the same. And then
which is why I don't like Saints Row.
That's what I was going to say. Like in cases where the developer sort of takes that implicit physical comedy and then makes it explicit in the world. So like we gave Saints Row 4 an honest shot, I think, and we just couldn't get into it. But there are cases where I feel like the theme and like physicality of gameplay meets halfway, but they tend to be like much smaller experiences. Things like Minotaur China Shop by the Flashbang guys,
and like Bennett Foddy stuff,
and like Bennett Foddy's games, right? Like Co-op. Also Bennett Foddy's. What is the fighting game he made? Get on Top. That game is so funny. We should stream that at some point. It's because it's incredible. They tend to be games that are much smaller, where because they're much more abstract. The conflict between the world and systems doesn't matter that much. Like the world of Co-op is irrelevant. Like the world of Minotaur China Shop is like essentially a gag unto itself, but it's not crass. It's just
Minotaur China Shop handles itself well in the details. The way like that game, I don't even think is online anymore because that whole site went away.
Yeah,
like just the way that Minotaur like had his like nonchalant strut.
But within that strut was like this power, like unable to like quite be.
That game was
at
so
ease
clean
with itself. Yeah, it really
for how
so
just goofy and dumb it was.
Well, and then the same developer, Flashbang, they did stuff like the time traveling donkey game, and like
they did donkey, they did off-road Velociraptor Safari,
right? And that stuff to me is like just 1 degree too.
Minotaur China Shop hilarious. Was like that was the one. Yeah,
Minotaur China Shop is perfect. Anyway, that blend of like physicality and theme is so hard to do in games without just going so far in one direction that you kind of ruin the joke.
Yep. Right. Jazzpunk for me.
Actually, I liked Crackdown in that way. Because, I mean, Crackdown wasn't as hilarious, but it was like a mixture of not quite taking itself too seriously, but also not just being over the top. Like,
if a Just Cause 3 is ever made, I bet it will be terrible because of what people have done with Just Cause 2.
Yeah. God, Just Cause 2, man. They, we already talked about the multiplayer
mode,
Yeah, sorry, anyway.
I wish that I wish that Jazzpunk didn't feel sometimes like it's trying too hard or trying.
Right, yeah,
because,
sure.
And some of that is the stuff when it feels like it's touching on Blendo Games stuff. Some of it is when it feels like it's just pushing you too hard to laugh at a joke. And the thing that bums me out about it is that, that bums me out because I'm glad that I've been playing it because I've been surprised by how often it does actually manage to strike something so unexpected and at odds with what I was, just, expecting.
Yeah.
Sorry that I said that twice. That it's been enjoyable in its surprises because you can feel like the people who are making this game. God, this is the most fucking shitty backhanded compliment, but I feel like the people who are making the game are probably actually better at doing what they're doing than they themselves have given themselves credit for.
Yeah,
interesting.
With the choices that they're making in the game. Because when this game hits its highs, it's just like, oh my god, I hope that you guys...
You mean it doesn't feel as confident as you suspect it would be able to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many places in it where it feels like they're reaching and being like, look what we're doing. And it's like, okay, I already knew you were doing that because of the stuff that is actually like transcendent in this game from moment to moment. But then just something that I can tell that you lifted from something else or that you just didn't feel confident about shows up. And it makes me hope that they do another game, but that they have the right takeaways from Jazzpunk because I'm liking it, but it just has that feeling to it to me. And again, it feels like a fucking...
Has this team done anything before this?
I don't know. I don't know anything about this other than the trailer came out of nowhere for me, and I was like, whoa, what the heck?
Yeah.
And then I said what I said. But yeah, anyway, I don't mean...
Well, no, totally. I mean, and Brendan Chung, he made all of those weird old mods before Gravity, that were all technically part of the same story and universe, and then he made Gravity Bone, and that felt like, something, like a real summation, of stuff he was trying to achieve.
Yeah, anyway, I don't know. I guess having talked about it for this amount of time, I, at this point, do kind of want to say just... play Jazzpunk. There's a chance you might not like it. There's probably stuff in it that you'll think is dumb, but there's enough stuff in it that is just totally surprising or just fresh feeling or at least refreshing feeling inside of it that it seems worth playing, at least giving the first hour of it a go.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Also, don't do what I did, which is spend the first 20 minutes comparing it to 30 Flights of Loving and Gravity Bone because you'll just be annoyed at what it's not, and that would prevent you from seeing what it actually is, which is
never the best
kind of
way
cool.
to play something. You guys want to take a break?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's look at these paintings of ourselves some more.
I've been doing that the entire time because they're all staring at me.
I can't see them.
Video game.
Of course, now this episode's going to be inaudible. Are we back?
I don't know. Are we?
Yeah.
We're back. That's right, Jake. We're back. Yeah.
Cool.
Garrett Morrow writes, Dear Thumbs, I've only been listening to your podcast for a few months now. Oh, this is reader mail. Garrett Morrow writes, Dear Thumbs, I've only been listening to your podcast for a few months now, but have quickly become a big fan of your gaming discussions. In the latest episode of your show, you guys talked about the SimCity expansion, Cities of Tomorrow. I'm a history grad student at Sonoma State University in
From the
County,
future.
California, and the focus of my thesis is on post-war architecture, specifically in Japan. While listening to the discussion on the expansion, I found it fascinating that so many of the so-called cities of tomorrow are based on theories and ideas created a half-century ago. Multi-use buildings, arcologies, and megastructures were all created in the post-war economic and political optimism. Futurism and technology-enhanced urbanism were all the rage back in the 50s and 60s, but were eventually rejected during the postmodern era. But somehow the cities of tomorrow of the 1950s are still the basis of cities of tomorrow in 2014. In one way, it makes sense that game developers would view urban growth in terms of high technology because of the constant interface with technology in their everyday work and personal lives, especially in light of all the crazy robot news that seems to occur every week. It does make me wonder, though, what a modern SimCity game would look like if created and designed by individuals who lived a more low-tech lifestyle. So the Thumbs have any opinions on this? SimCity's Cities of Tomorrow does a fantastic job of illustrating how theories and ideas can be cyclical. For some absolutely surreal futuristic urban design, I recommend the Thumbs do a quick Google image search for Ron Heron's Walking City, Arata Isuzaki's City in the Sky, or Kisho Kurakawa's Helix City. These are all surreal to the point of horror, especially the Walking City, where the concept images are superimposed in front of existing city skylines. Then he has a thing about Far Cry 2. I'm not sure if it's related. Should I read it?
Yeah.
In regard to Far Cry 2, a couple weeks ago, you guys read an email from a developer on the game about the game only being appreciated by game designers or those with knowledge about the game's development. I just wanted to throw my hat in and let the developer know that I loved the game at the time and still do, despite just being a typical gamer at the time with no prior knowledge of it. Far Cry 2 was a breath of fresh air and made me love the open-world shooter. A year later, I had played and loved Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl, which is far more obtuse and has its own problems, so Far Cry 2 is an easier time. You may have talked before, but have you guys played the Stalker series? If so, what are your thoughts? This email's long, but I add in one last thing. When I was younger, my family visited Disney World. We ended up riding and playing Buzz Astro Blaster attraction multiple times. On the third attempt, my mom rode it alone and ended up maxing out the score on her tally, completely demolishing our scores. Since then, my brothers and I have been in awe of her sharpshooting abilities. I'm sure my parents have a photo around for proof. Cheers and keep up the fantastic work, Garrett Morrow.
Wait a minute. She wrote it alone. There is no proof then. Unless they have that photo. Unless they took the...
Right.
Yeah. I maxed the score out, honey. It's fine. Like, we don't have to go on again. I beat it all. I shot
you don't trust the Flappy Bird guy. You don't trust this guy's mom.
Nick Breckon. We have talked about Stalker a lot, just to quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that.
No, that was a cool point about the SimCity stuff.
I agree. That was really cool. It's totally true, also.
Yes. It occurred. Yeah, it did occur to me.
Retrofuturism is basically, I feel like, in kind of popular culture, is sort of synonymous with futurism still.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's totally true. Yeah.
Yeah. There is
either that or like cyber shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, those are the two flavors you can put into a modern thing.
Right. Which are the two towers that you can build? Retrofuturism or like the other type, which is basically just a Blade Runner cyber thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's sad to me, but I think the only times that I actually become aware of modern thoughts on urban design and sort of modern non-TED Talk futurism, like actual sort of like practical futurism, and not is when people from those fields critique the new SimCity.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
What did you think he was going to say?
Just some weird San Francisco, crazy proposal for whatever.
No. I actually only ever hear when people are like, why doesn't SimCity model this, and this? And
every time those people do say that, I'm always like, oh, I wish it did now.
I know.
Because I think
we might have talked about this. Oh, go ahead. You say what you were going to say.
That's not important.
Oh, the thing that I was hoping, and I was admittedly disappointed when the premise for Cities of Tomorrow was actually announced, because what I had been hoping for was, and this was
space.
No, this would never happen. But I was hoping that SimCity 2013 that they had made lemonades out of those lemons by making you be so frustrated with commercial, residential, industrial, no mixed use, no non-driving stuff, that they then could have put out a Cities of Tomorrow-esque expansion pack that then actually did just let you get all of these like more modern ideas, things that people actually complain about, but about not being in the first game. But then you'd be like, oh, thank God, I can actually put all these things in my city because you're infuriated by SimCity basically using this like the same model of how to zone and build a city that's existed since the 40s or whatever. I thought that would have been an amazing accidental like retcon Trojan horse to be like, anyway, now you get these interesting things that people really push in their critiques of the original game. But instead, they did a thing that seems like it's fun to play, even if it is based on basically the Jetsons.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and it's also funny to observe. This guy didn't mention, I guess, in his email, but I'm sure would be able to speak much more clearly about it than I can. But I mean, SimCity already, the sort of present of SimCity 2013 is also basically sort of the present of the 1950s. Yeah. Right, where it's like everything is based on these like road grids and it does feel pre-modern. In
SimCity is actually
the present.
It's the scene in Back to the Future when he goes to 1955 and sees his subdivision going in.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Yep. It's too bad.
But what if it was Back to the Future 2 when he goes to the future and like a Ronald Reagan serves him a Pepsi for $50? Why isn't that in this game, Maxis, or whoever makes this now?
I think it's Maxis still.
Yeah.
It says Maxis on the box, and it has a team in a building that says Maxis on it.
Yeah, that's what we're going to say.
It's made in Emeryville, right? It's made at the Maxis building.
It's Maxis.
I just mean, like, even Cities of Tomorrow, there was a huge turnover between SimCity 2013 and Cities of Tomorrow.
The creative team was...
Yeah, a ton of the leads left in between, which sucks. I mean, sorry, that was super disparaging to what is surely dozens and dozens of people who've been working there since SimCity 4, at least, who are on City of Tomorrow. I didn't mean to be a shit.
Yeah.
I was one, though. This is the episode where I'm a turd to everyone, apparently. Thanks, everyone, for painting paintings of my face. Anyway, now I'll be a fucking
So that you can say these things in front of the enormous painting of your face.
By the way, this entire episode, from my perspective...
Oh, yeah. No, this is what I got last week.
Jake's head saying these things, and then just peeking out from behind it, Jake's enormous painted head.
Right.
Just
It was worse for me
grinning
last
at
week because it was over in the left, so I just had two Jakes. It was like talking to a chimera.
The two Jakes?
The two
Classic
Jakes, yeah.
Film starring and directed by Jack Nicholson.
Oh, Chinatown 2.
Jack Nicholson.
Two Jakes.
What a choice that was to make.
All right, so Captain Invictus is back with an email about the psychology of hats. Howdy again, it's the Hat Baron here with something I've been asked a fair amount since emailing you guys.
The psychology of hats now sounds like this is like people loved the Hat Baron trilogy, so now I'm going on the road of my new book, The Psychology of Hats. So hopefully that's where this ends.
Malcolm Gladwell's The Psychology of Hats.
Yeah, buy it from the Kindle self-published store for $2.99, which I would do and promote.
Why do people pay so much for virtual hats? Well, I'm not a psychologist, but this is how I see it. Also, that's an amazing intro. Aside from the obvious appeal of owning something rare that most people don't usually see, it has to do with the base game itself. Team Fortress 2, when released, had 9 classes, and that's it. Every engineer looked like every engineer. Every soldier was a clone of other soldiers. There's no differentiating. In one update, they secretly added extremely rare hat drops, the Demo Man Fro, the Batter's Helmet, etc. Suddenly you had an occasionally slightly different character, which sparked something in the player base. They wanted to look different. I think human nature is to want to be unique from the crowd, and these special hats allowed that. This spiraled completely out of control. Now you've got this prison economy we have now, where people trade cigarettes, keys, for various goods, an item that can be used for your own purpose, but it's then consumed, and can instead be used to barter for the items you want. This is discounting the crazy people who are bad with money, or the crazy people who just have too much money. In my neck of the woods, I've been brokering a few high-end items for a couple people, including the newest ultimate rare item, the golden frying pan. Only 10 or so of these exist as of this writing, even though they've been able to drop for nearly 3 months now. Holy crap. When one appears after a particularly lucky player completes a man versus machine tour, it announces it to the entire player base that you are the lucky duck who found the golden ticket. Oh man, that's crazy. I didn't know that. For a friend of mine, this means he got about 100 new friend requests who all wanted to talk to him about it 10 seconds after finding it. He doesn't trade, so he gave it to me to sell because he's not cool with random shitheads adding him and trying to scam it off of him, and this thing can go for quite a lot. The first one sold for $5,500, and that's dropped a bit since then, but $3,500 is still totally possible.
God, that's just that guy is the Flappy Bird developer of Team Fortress 2 items. Like,
it does have the special ability to turn anyone you kill with it into a golden statue of whatever pose they were in when you bludgeon them with it. It's pretty sweet, I guess. And I get to use it until someone buys it from me, the true benefit of being a broker. As for me, Valve just sent me a 1099 form for selling $22,000 worth of stuff on the Steam Marketplace last year. So I get to play Taxpayer Fortress 2 now. Hooray. Sean, I've still got all that Dota merch if you're still after some. After also Dota plushies, TF2 chess sets, and stuff like that for cheap. Email me.
We probably should email this guy.
Yeah, we should.
And what are we doing not doing
Steam friend request him.
Give me that
I like that just the end of it just turned into like a quarter-page ad in the back of a magazine, though.
Right. Yeah.
Got that Dota merch.
Dota merch, though.
Plushies,
Yeah.
TF2
Got
chess
inflatable
sets,
donkeys.
all for cheap. Email me.
Invictus.
Yeah. Tom Kidd writes, do you guys have any thoughts on the whole Flappy Bird deal?
No.
Not reading the rest of the email.
Nope.
I just thought that was funny. Matthew Cramp writes, unique experiences. Actually, this is another incredibly long email. We've already done a couple of those. We'll do this next week, I guess.
Yeah, leave it in the to read folder and flag it. That's what we do here at Idle Thumbs.
Behind the scenes.
Little 10th anniversary peek at how we manage our Gmail inbox. I turn mine off during the week so I don't have to look at it because it freaks me out that it's unread.
I just read them all.
You mark them as read? You're the one.
I'm a terrorist.
Do you at least put them in the to read folder if they're interesting?
Yeah.
Do you?
What? You got a conspiracy now? You think?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some shifty eyes happening here.
We'll see.
Man, we're getting a lot of super long emails. They're all quite interesting, but they're incredibly long.
Maybe we can do a mailbag soon.
Yeah, we probably should, actually. Here's another... Oh, this is like a leftover from a couple weeks ago, but we never read it. This was another person...
You guys should play this game, Flappy Bird.
This is someone writing in about college multiplayer experiences.
Oh, cool.
Because we never got this sort of just straight up college, like current college student one, I think. They were all special cases. Jake McKenzie writes, you asked if college students are playing couch co-op games, so I thought I'd email in. I'm a dude studying computer science and working to support myself on my own. My roommates who also attend my college are all women who, while play video games, don't play competitive games. With the renaissance going on in the independent space for couch multiplayer only, I have to say that I'm someone who's been left behind. Also, I need to clarify that the comma usage in this didn't suggest that women generally don't play competitive games, just the ones he's particularly roommates with. I don't have much free time to drive to a friend's couch or have them drive to mine to play these games. Network play is where I'm able to enjoy all the multiplayer experiences. Suffice to say, it's distressing when I tell independent developers of my plight I am cast as an antisocial recluse, which has happened multiple times because I won't play couch co-op games. When I explain to them it's a matter of economics, I'm scoffed at. I understand the technical restraints to design that network play causes. Nidhogg, which has network play, is considered unplayable as of this recording due to host advantage, and economic considerations of developers too, but I thought I'd share my own perspective. My sincere thanks for your time and consideration. Jake McKenzie, Pensacola, Florida. Yeah, this is something that is... I was thinking about this a lot recently because I have some friends who are making a really awesome local multiplayer game. And it really is difficult to imagine... It's such a great, in my opinion, great genre and style of current game, this like stripped down local competitive multiplayer thing. But God, it's so hard to imagine how someone who just doesn't have the precise variables lined up in their life should be able to play it. Like, how do you find enough of those people on a wide enough scale to make the whole thing worthwhile? It's really hard.
Someone should get them into arcade cabinets and put them in bars in San Francisco.
Well, yeah.
That's I don't know where else that would work, but in this stupid city, people would play them.
That's totally true. I just mean, from that angle, sure, there's still a lot of people who are just never going to have access to that.
Yeah, of course.
Which is just a reality. I'm not saying this is like something there's an easy solution to. It's just a bummer. You know, like it's unfortunate that I think it's a style of game design that is just at odds with how
it feels like
a lot of people just live
if in the world. As streaming latency goes down, couch multiplayer games can become online multiplayer games reasonably easily, but that's still a minute away, I'm sure. I mean, but you know, if your internet connection is, if you look at OnLive a few years ago and hope that maybe in a few years people have reasonably high-speed cable internet, there'd still probably be some degree of host advantage, but it would be reduced, hopefully. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be. Set up a PC somewhere else in your house and stream it to yourself and a friend, so you both have some
or you just everything could be hosted on a server. I mean, you could just be server-based, but
it would be interesting for someone to just deliberately run a Nidhogg streaming off of a third-party computer and have two other people log in and see if that works. It would be fucking garbage in the case of Nidhogg unless everyone had really fast internet. But like, maybe that is one thing that will help contribute to that stuff working better. I don't know.
Then on the development side, I was talking to someone about playing Nidhogg, and I was sort of talking about these general challenges, and they were saying, well, I just play single-player Nidhogg. I go, bots are fun. And it's like, okay, well, that's great, but also that guy spent like ages developing AI to make that even possible. Right. Like, one of the cool theoretical things about developing games like this is that they're fairly lightweight on the development side, and you don't need tons of assets and polish, and that hopefully counteracts the like limited audience size because you don't need as much to make back your budget. But then on the other hand, a lot of the things that do make these games feel saleable in the first place are still, despite the like low asset requirements, are fairly technical and time consuming and complex, especially to make really good, making a good AI and like an intensely competitive multiplayer game. That's pretty hard.
Man, that bar thing. I'm just thinking about all of those like AMI internet jukeboxes that now exist. If those things just had two joysticks built into them,
if the screen. The thing about those is that those things are generally kind of unappealing and gross.
Yeah.
If there was one of those with the screen twice as big and a nice looking case, and it just had Nidhogg on it and said, "Pay 25 cents and you can play a 3-round ladder." Right.
Isn't there someone who was in these conversations I was having? Someone was telling me, God, this is terrible because I can't remember what it's called, but there's some machine that there's like 30 of them in the world, and it's or something like that, maybe more than that, but that's I think what they said, and it's an arcade cabinet that's hooked up to the internet, and there's some network that you can like upload a game to, and it will just automatically
that's cool.
propagate out to all of these cabinets.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
And it's used for like local multiplayer games and stuff. And I can't remember what it's called, and I'm sure a bunch of people listening will know and instantly know what I mean.
Actually, we were talking about this. Well, not about that specifically. We were talking about couch co-op arcade cabinet when Will Smith from Tested was on.
That's how it came up because I brought that up, and they said,
Right.
"Oh, have you heard of this thing?"
But he actually has started to order parts for and is trying to build a really slim, like wall hanging arcade cabinet that would be like flat screen based, but still have two. He ordered 2 arcade joysticks that are actually analog joysticks and some buttons, and his plan is to try and build one of these and then find a place to put it, I guess. I don't really know. He sent an email to us and we said, oh, cool, and then haven't talked to him. But he was posting some photos of the parts on Twitter as they were arriving, and it made me want one to exist
Yeah, it seems pretty
badly.
awesome.
Yeah.
In a place like Dear Mom or the
Yep.
Parkside right next to this room.
Every time you walk in a bar and it's just big buck hunters, I always wonder, why is that not a game that someone would actually play?
I never see people on the big
No
buck
one ever
hunter
uses
cabinets.
them.
I'm sure there are bars
It must just be
all over the place where that's the
advertising.
case. But like,
There's probably also just a licensing thing where it's just like, get it everywhere. You know,
yeah,
but-
Big Buck Hunter is the modern cigarette machine, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's so many. There are a number of bars around here where the clientele would respond far more strongly to seeing Nidhogg or Pole Riders on a screen, I think, than seeing a really badly animated caribou.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yep.
Also,
Well said, Jake.
Also, human beings would like to play them on their computers alone and have it work well.
Yeah.
But that's really hard.
Yep.
It's a cool motorcycle out there.
Yeah.
Somewhere Sean is talking about Full Throttle.
All right.
All right.
Is that a podcast?
Oh, if
think
you
that
have a
was a
question
podcast.
for us,
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
you should write us at questions@idlethumbs.net. If you want to see the ridiculous backstory of all the paintings, there's Chris pointed this out earlier, but you should go to idlethumbs.net/forums. It's in the, I think,
General discussion forum.
is
Or Idle
Idle
Banter.
Banter. It's just called the Idle Thumbs 10th Anniversary Weird Thing Committee or whatever. Check it out.
You can watch the video of it at youtube.com/idlevideos.
Yep. So thank you to our forum community and to everyone who listens to this podcast. Also, thank you especially to the people who've been reading this or listening to us for a decade, because you're weird and the best. And you also know that our 10th anniversary is technically not for a few months, but whatever.
It's this year. This is the year.
This is the year of Idle
Thumbs
Thumbs.
10th anniversary year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're expecting, regular shipments of more things.
This room is not yet actually able to be filled floor to ceiling with paintings like an old French chateau.
getting there,
So
yeah.
let's
It's pretty close. but-
let's get on this. Yeah,
Because we also have Vincent Prey's Space Asshole painting up on the wall.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, we have that hot dogs sign from Video Games Hot Dog.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening this week.
Thanks, everyone.
I'll be gone next week. It's going to be weird.
Oh, yeah, that is
You're going to ruin the
weird.
podcast.
Is that the first podcast you have done?
second ever one? Because we
Really?
I wasn't on Jake and Sean's UK expedition.
Yeah, we
It's
did.
debatable how much that
We
one
did.
counts.
It was a
That's
numbered
sort
episode.
of a UK.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. Okay.
It was a numbered episode, but it was one that we
Okay.
did just because we were in the UK and we
Yeah.
just threw a bunch of people on a podcast.
But this will be the
Alright.
first San Francisco episode I've ever not been on.
Wow, weird.
Yeah. Jake's missed one as well. So
Yep.
now Jake will break the tie
Yeah.
for highest number of Idle Thumbs episodes
Yep.
on them.
I'll be the winner.
Until
Biggest
next time you're
painting,
gone.
most episodes.
Video games.
What assholes.